Luxury cars might be infamous for their depreciation, but supercars tend to hold their value pretty well, especially from collector brands like Ferrari and Lamborghini. But every once in a while, a model slips through the cracks and ends up in the clearance bin. Today, we're taking a look at 7 forgotten supercars that offer good performance for a discounted price, and might even be considered cheap. Almost nobody remembers the Ferrari 456. It came out in the early 90s, offered at the same time as icons like the F50 and 360. But unlike these exotic car titans, the 456 never achieved high desirability. It was Ferrari's grand touring model, a front-engine 2+2 coupe made for road trips and daily driving. The Italians didn't hold back on the powertrain. It was driven by a 5.5-liter V12, making about 440 horsepower. That was paired with the customer's choice of a 4-speed automatic or 6-speed gated manual transmission. It was one of the final front-engine Ferraris ever sold with a manual, and among the last to feature the brand's iconic pop-up headlights. But like all the 4-seater Ferraris, the 456 is pretty unloved today, especially the automatic examples. Ferrari originally sold the 456 for $225,000, but now even low-mileage examples sell in the high 40s. The first-generation Aston Martin Vanquish suffers the same fate. Evo magazine called it one of the most significant of all Astons, thanks to its innovative bonded aluminum chassis and prominent role in the James Bond franchise. Powered by a 5.9-liter V12, the Vanquish makes 460 horsepower in the early models and 520 in the later S trim. The exterior, designed by Ian Callum, is considered by many to be among the most beautiful production cars ever made. Less than 2,600 first-gen Vanquishes were ever built, but its rarity isn't enough to prop up its value. That's because the Vanquish was plagued with a number of common failures. Rusting subframes, flimsy coil packs, and analog gear position sensors are enough to send maintenance costs into the stratosphere. These little hiccups tend to scare off potential buyers for the car, allowing prices to fall as low as $50,000. But with all the accolades this car earned, I wouldn't expect it to stay that way for long. McLaren rushed onto the supercar stage at an unbelievable pace, achieving nearly the same respect as Ferrari and Lamborghini in just a few years. By 2015, they were expanding their lineup to include an entry-level exotic with a 3.8-liter twin-turbo V8, the 570S. Thanks to its 7-speed dual-clutch transmission and lightweight carbon fiber tub chassis, the 562-horsepower exotic can accelerate 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds. It's one of my favorite cars from this era, made with technology derived from the P1 and outrunning cars that cost many times more. Of course, it was replaced by the Artura in 2022, which means the entry-level Mac is just a few years old. But the early models have already dropped 50% from their MSRP of around $200,000 to sell for as little as $100K. And with the older McLaren 12C falling even below that, it's likely that the 570 will continue to drop as it ages. Car enthusiasts have a love-hate relationship with the BMW i8. On the one hand, it's a futuristic exotic with butterfly doors and insane styling. It doesn't look out of place parked next to a Bugatti or driving around a Mission Impossible film. But on the other hand, it's a plug-in hybrid car powered by 2 electric motors and a 1.5-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine shared with the Mini Cooper. So performance isn't quite up to snuff with modern supercars. It produces only 369 horsepower, and 0 to 60 happens in about 4.1 seconds. And let's not forget its most controversial feature, an audio system that makes fake engine sounds both inside and outside the car. So despite its incredible exterior and high-tech options, the i8 has been the butt of too many jokes in the automotive community. This mixed reception has dropped it to as little as $45,000 on the used markets, a far cry from the $150K that it cost new. On the opposite end from the BMW i8, Lotus is one of the most dedicated enthusiast brands out there, producing lightweight, manual transmission driver's cars since 1952. In 2009, they introduced the Lotus Evora. It was powered by a mid-engine 3.5-liter V6 from Toyota, which produced only 276 horsepower in the early models, but got increased to 430 by the end of its production in 2021. Of the numerous variants created over the years, most of them weighed in at under 3,000 pounds, and that was despite being praised as a much more usable car than the hardcore Lotus Elise, with premium interior features like a touchscreen navigation system, Bluetooth, and leather trim. It's an enthusiast sports car with real daily driver potential. But like so many other British cars, the Lotus has not fared well as a financial asset. A new Evora would have set you back about $100,000, but used examples today trade for just 40 to 50K. The R35 GTR, introduced by Nissan around 2008, was one of the most anticipated supercars of the century. It was teased in multiple concept cars during the early 2000s, hyping enthusiasts up for the successor to the legendary R34 Skyline. Powered by a 3.8-liter twin-turbo V6, sending around 500 horsepower to all four wheels, the GTR could do 0 to 60 in just 3.5 seconds. The Japanese sports car was, unsurprisingly, a massive success, maybe even too big of a success. It's estimated that nearly 40,000 R35 GTRs were sold globally from 2008 to 2024, making it far more common than your typical supercar. The excess supply has driven down prices significantly on the used market. A car that was around $120,000 new now goes for under 60K in some cases. It's almost a shame how many British cars are ending up on this list. But the Jaguar XKR is just too good not to include. The second generation XK, introduced in 2005, was designed as an homage to the E-Type by Ian Callum, the same British artist who penned the earlier Vanquish. The base model made a respectable 300 horsepower, but the upgraded XKR model was a rival to even the most dedicated exotics, with a 4.2-liter supercharged V8 making 420 horses, which later got upgraded to the same 5-liter engine used in the F-Type. And of course, the interior includes all the comforts you would expect from a luxury Grand Tourer. But as fantastic as the XKR was on paper, it got dragged down by Jaguar's reputation from the 90s and early 2000s, a reputation of poor quality and even worse reliability. While some say the brand turned it around with the XKR, it still lost a lot of its value. A new one cost roughly 6 figures depending on the trim and specs, but today it has experienced a catastrophic drop to sell for $30,000 or sometimes even $20,000. Did these cars deserve to lose so much value so quickly? And are any of them a good alternative to more expensive options? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and remember to subscribe. Thanks for watching.